We're going to bring in Loretta Mester, former Cleveland Fed president, to this discussion. And Loretta, it's great to have you on. I do want to get your thoughts, your takeaways from Fed Chair Powell and what he presented this morning.
Well, a clear indication that he's ready to move rates down, I think, based on the data he's seen so far and what he thinks is likely to happen. And I think of it as being viewed more like an insurance cut against the downside risk to the employment part of the mandate. He did emphasize, and Steve, I think you pointed this out, that they're going to be very, very focused on making sure that inflation expectations remain and long-term inflation expectations remain contained and consistent with 2%. So I view this as a 25, pointing to his view is that it's appropriate to do a 25 basis point cut as soon as September, but not necessarily the start of a long walk down the rate path, that they're going to be cautious about how they proceed after that. And so I think sometimes they say that's a hawkish cut, and I guess that's how I perceived it is. It's time now to maybe reevaluate the stance. He did say he viewed policy right now as still modestly restrictive, so he has a window to bring down the degree of restrictiveness, still have policy be a bit restrictive that'll help on the inflation part of the mandate, and yet take out that insurance against some of those downside risks to the labor market. That's how I read it. And I was somewhat surprised that he was so clear about where he stood, because there is a lot of data coming out between now and the September meeting. There is an out, because he did say, may warrant adjusting the stance. But I read this as a pretty clear statement about where he stands. And sometimes it's not a signal to the market. Sometimes it's actually his speeches give pretty good guidance to the other people on the committee, because they haven't heard him talk broadly on the economy since the July meeting. And of course, the employment data came out after that. So sometimes, I know it may seem surprising, but you as a Fed policymaker, I used to gain insights when I heard his speeches about, okay, this is where at least the chair is seeing things at the moment.
Yeah, it's such a great point, the fact there's multiple audiences here. You just touched on it. I'm going to dig a little more deeply into this one, Loretta, with you, but that may warrant adjusting our policy stance. As Ben Emmons pointed out earlier today, that markets do seem to be interpreting adjusting as plural. And I guess to put a fine point on it, you think that's the wrong interpretation?
Well, I think they're going to be careful about it. And I think the chair actually used the word careful because they haven't really seen much deterioration in the labor market. He did point out that the balance in the labor market is a curious one, because not only is demand moderating, you got supply moderating, and that's what's keeping the unemployment rate low. But that could change. If demand starts falling off more strongly than supply, you'll see the unemployment rate go up. And in that case, they will be moving probably to a few more rate cuts to address that issue. But they have to be careful, because they can't give up the fight on the inflation. Inflation is going to be moving up higher. Yes, their interpretation is those are one-ofs, but they're one-ofs only if the Fed does the right thing with monetary policy. Those one-off changes in higher prices, a price level change, can become inflationary if the Fed allows it to happen. So again, they're going to have to be balancing both sides of the mandate. And that's why they're going to have to be very careful about what they do and what they're signaling about the economy going forward in their path of policy. But we're going to get in the next meeting a new SEP, Summary of Economic Projections, which will give us a sense of where the committee members and the participants on the FOMC see policy going and their projections. So I think that'll be an important piece of information coming out.